What's new, Andrew? In our space, not in the graphics card area. We can talk graphics card also, but
Nothing. Not a single thing has happened in the last week. That's a lie. All right. I've got a few things just going down my list here that I would love to share today. All right. First things first, we've talked about this toolkit a few times here on Office Hours, but our friends Matthias and Peter released an intro video on the Intune Debug Toolkit over on MS Endpoint Manager's Jungling the Cloud channel. Quick video, about 11 minutes. Very useful toolkit that we use for troubleshooting things like Autopilot enrollment and making sure that endpoints can actually reach the Microsoft Intune and Autopilot endpoints. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can do with this toolkit. It really is a number of tools put together and is really going to help your life troubleshooting some of these issues because as I've learned from you, Johan, it's true that the cloud does not fix everything, and we do still have to troubleshoot. Who would have thought?
yeah.
So great video there, and fantastic toolkit. If you haven't used it before, highly recommend it. Damien put out another blog post. As I see a common theme with Damien's blog posts: log analytics, Azure automation accounts, equals some fantastic additions to Intune. So he's taking some information around the Intune discovered apps that show up on each individual client in Intune. So these are the applications that Intune is seeing are actually installed on a device, and has built a dashboard out of them, or out of that information, rather. As you can see here, if I scroll down, basically has a workbook with all of this log analytics information here. Very cool stuff, as always, from Damien. Also, Johan, you mentioned that I believe you attended this live last week, but Patch My PC put together a fantastic video around Autopilot enrollment. And they actually released the recording on Friday.
Yep. No, that was a great webinar. Absolutely great.
100% worth the 82 minutes right here.
Yeah.
Not surprising at all. Let's see. What else did I have? Oh, there we go. Sorry. Did come across this blog post as well, and I've seen it in a couple of different forums, but this is the most comprehensive, I think. Tony Redman over at Office 365 IT Pros wrote that there were some new graph permissions available for user accounts, which I'm very excited about. Any additional granularity and permissions around graph is fantastic. For the longest time, we've had to use things like user.read.all or user read-write all, which gives you access to every bit of information in each individual user object. So we're starting to see some additional granularity here where you only get access to enable and disable the account, or the mail properties of the account, the password profile, and the phone information. So nice to see this granularity. I'm hoping we get more and more of this to help us keep things secure, of course. Did want to give a little bit of a reminder here. So we talked a lot about upcoming conferences and events last week. Of course, I'm sure we didn't hit all of them, but we hit quite a few. Another reminder is for Microsoft's technical takeoff coming up here March 3rd through 6th. This has been a great event that we've really enjoyed the last few years, where Microsoft will have some short videos, short meaning I've seen them from 15 minutes to, let's say, 30 minutes, as well as some live online Q&A covering various topics like Entra, Intune management, Windows 365, Azure Virtual Desktop, you can see here. They've talked about Active Directory in the past. And oftentimes with these shorter videos, they're focusing on very specific things. One of my favorite ones in years past was specifically around labs. what we could do with Windows Labs right before it was released. Now we're seeing it out in production. But they gave a little bit of an idea of what was coming up and what we could expect. So I liked that it was very a specific topic.
I also like the fact that they kept their support team and product team engaged, not just for when the video was played back or when it was a live video, but they were answering questions live in the comments that came in, and they continued to do that for a good while. I'd like to say almost 24 hours, but at least throughout the entire day that the event happened. So I really hope they do that the same this time around. But that was great because people posting a lot of great questions, and I'll say it's worth it just to go through and read the questions. That you often find some gold bars on those as well, or nuggets. How do you say it?
Yeah, I would say gold nugget.
Yeah,
Nuggets of information.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep, I completely agree. It's a nice event, and especially having it so focused around what we and our audience are typically involved in. We'll never complain with that. One of the last things that I wanted to show here is last week I talked about the Entra PowerShell module went GA. So I was playing around with it a little bit. You can do a lot of the things in the Entra PowerShell module that you can already do in the Microsoft Graph SDK or Microsoft.graph module, as you may know it. But the nice thing about the Entra module is it's specifically around Entra. It's nearly, but not quite, a direct replacement of the Azure AD PowerShell module, and it's much lighter footprint. There are only a few sub-modules. So once I install it, we can look right here and see how many we have available. So I've installed both. There is a production, I shouldn't say production, but there's a module that points to the v1.0 graph endpoint, and there is a separate module that points to the beta graph endpoint. So you can see here there are far fewer sub-modules. We just have applications, authentication, directory management, governance groups, reports, sign-ins, and users. So it's much lighter weight if you're primarily just working with Entra. Just a few basic things that I was using. We can do things like get, you do need to connect Entra, I think it is, yep. And then from there, we can just do a get Entra group. And it'll pass back all of the groups that I have in my tenant. I can do things like get Entra user. And let's see if I can actually type this filter off the top of my head. Let's do a starts with display name Andrew, for example. Or, you know what, better yet, use one of my demo users there. There we go. So we've got a couple of user objects there that are showing up. So again, pretty similar to things like get MG group, get MG user. We can set information, we can get information, standard PowerShell module stuff. But I do appreciate that it's much lighter weight. And if you're really only using the Azure AD PowerShell module, this might be a little bit easier to get into than the whole Microsoft Graph SDK. So just wanted to share a little bit about my experience there so far. It's looking good. The last thing that I wanted to ask about is, Johan, I noticed yesterday a little bit of conversation around PowerShell script coming out to actually patch the boot media for Windows. I wanted to see if you had any thoughts around this PowerShell script that Microsoft released and their fix.
Well, it's quite a long script to just copy some files, but it's a signed script, so that is good. There is a lot of modules, not modules, functions in it to do the different aspect of it. So it's a very well-written script, but technically you can probably get away with 20, 30 lines of code that would do the same thing, and this one's like 500 plus the signature on top of that. So, but yeah, so at least it's nice that they provide something to help out with this. I was reading up on another article as well. See if I can go ahead and find it. Turned out to be the best article I've seen on that particular CVE issue. Let me just authenticate and see if I can get access to that post that I had.
Sounds good.
Love MFA.
Oh, yes. So do all of our users.
No, they don't.
Oh, dang it.
Let's verify my link. All right, I found it. All right. So were you done with the skip there?
Oh, yep.
All right. Let me go ahead and steal the screen real quick then. So this one here, written by a Microsoft fellow, Helmut Wagensonner, guessing out of Germany, but he's a solution architect at Microsoft. This one turned out to be from last year. I just missed it. He posted this at some point in July, August, whatever. But this goes through that mitigation and not yet explains the problem very well and what the mitigations are and how they work. He also provided guidance on how to add this to different Pixel solutions. Like you have a ConfigMgr Pixel server, what do you need to do to have that support these new UEFI loaders or EFI files, and also give some warnings that basically make sure you do this in a very specific order. So highly recommend this, read this blog post. Very well written. And the best part that I've seen all day or all year, or last year for that matter, was the last 4 steps here. What you need to do in order for things. And this was the most interesting part to me. This is where you update the Pixel server, but you do that after you have come to the one of the steps in the mitigation. But then once you're done with all that, then you finish it up. This is where you revoke all the entries that are no longer allowed, and just a great article. So we'll put this link in the list as usual. But great read, or I thought it was a great read.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Looks like some good Friday night reading with the family right there.
Mm-hmm.
After a long week.
Yeah. There is also a PowerShell script that helps you update the boot image. So that's a shorter version of the longer version script. Yeah.
Very cool. Looking forward to reading that.
Yep. And then our friends over at Patch My PC, they have been churning out blog posts left and right lately, but this one I stumbled across that tries to demystify basically everything that goes on related to Windows Update and Registry, or rather when Registry information is preventing updates from coming down to our devices in a timely fashion or at all. But great read. Long post, but well worth the time reading. So highly recommend that one as well. Fresh of the presses.
Awesome.
Yes. Finally, on my part, up on our academy, we started to add in a few different solutions that we offer in addition to our trainings. But this one here that we highlighted a few times here, February 20, free event, free webinar. We are almost up to 1,000 registrations on that one. It's by far our most successful mini course in terms of registrations. At least we haven't presented it yet, so I cannot kind of talk for that, but that'll be fun. So if you haven't joined us already or signed up for it, please do. Should be a fun one, and it gives an indication to, well, there is an interest to figure out something else. There's a lot of folks out there that's using it. So
that's what I was going to say. I think that's a good indication of how many people are still actually using it today.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. I also spent my week unsuccessful trying to figure out or find a link that clearly stated for how long ConfigMgr itself is supported. Because over the years, from various Microsoft folks and even talking to partners, ISVs that work with ConfigMgr, it has always been, yeah, it's going to be supported for at least 10 years after the last public release. But my searching skills failed me, miserable on that one. The only thing I found was one for ConfigMgr 2012 that stated that. So I reached out to a bunch of Microsoft folks that I knew, but so far nobody has replied yet and say, yep, that is absolutely true. This is where that information is. But I'm guessing some of the organizations that are running ConfigMgr today, we have some really large banks and the DoD, the defense, the army, they use it, and they usually have really like, yeah, it has to be supported for 10 years, otherwise you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
Type
Right.
agreements. So I think it's 10 years. I was just hoping I would find it somewhere because that would give a lot of people ease, because there have been a lot of chatter lately, like, okay, for how long is ConfigMgr actually going to be around? So we'll see. Time will tell.